The rain lashed against the transparent dome of Starlight Medical Center, a hub of healing suspended above the bustling trade city of Halion. In room 142 of the center's rehabilitation wing, Ryan Ascor stirred uneasily. His right leg, encased in a series of shimmering biobands, was a testament to the incident that had brought him here, a hoverboard malfunction that sent him careening into a wall of cargo crates. Ryan's mood matched the stormy skies outside. He had been here for 3 days, and while the advanced technology ensured his injuries were swiftly mending, the process felt hollow. Machines hummed and glowed, administering their programmed care, but the sterile, impersonal environment made every hour drag. He gazed at the ceiling, tracing the patterns of the light panels above him, when a soft knock sounded at the door. "Come in," he called, not bothering to lift his head. Another drone nurse or a technician, he assumed. Instead, a woman stepped inside, her presence immediately filling the room with warmth. Her auburn hair was tied back in a practical braid, but her amber eyes carried a spark of mischief that contrasted the serious white uniform she wore. "Good morning, Ryan," she said, her voice light but confident. "I'm Maren Celis, your new rehabilitation specialist. I'll be working with you for the rest of your recovery." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "What happened to the drones? Did they unionize?" Maren laughed, a melodic sound that was entirely out of place in the otherwise clinical atmosphere. "Drones are efficient, but they're terrible at understanding human stubbornness. I've read your file. Apparently you've been declining the full range of treatments." Ryan shrugged. "The machines do their job fine. I don't need a pep talk to heal." "Ah, but healing isn't just about the body," she replied, pulling up a chair. "It's about the mind and spirit, too. And judging by the fact that you've been glaring at the rain for 3 days, I'd say your spirit could use some help." He snorted. "So what? You're going to make me meditate? Light some candles." "Not quite," Maren said with a grin. "Let's start with something simple. Do you like music?" By the end of that first session, Ryan had grudgingly admitted that Maren was not like the others. Instead of subjecting him to the monotony of standard protocols, she brought a portable instrument called a veritharp, a string device that emitted soothing, otherworldly tones. She played a hauntingly beautiful melody as he completed his prescribed exercises, transforming what had felt like a chore into something almost enjoyable. Over the next few days, Maren continued to surprise him. She swapped out the sterile exercises for activities that challenged his imagination. One morning, she projected holographic landscapes of lush forests and shimmering oceans, encouraging him to navigate the simulations while testing his balance. Another time, she orchestrated a friendly competition with other patients, where they raced virtual hovercrafts using only their recovering limbs to control the speed and direction. For the first time since his accident, Ryan found himself laughing. He realized that Maren wasn't just helping him heal, she was reminding him how to live. One particularly rainy afternoon, Maren walked in carrying a peculiar box. It was wooden, intricately carved with swirling patterns, and emanated a faint, pleasant aroma. "What's that?" Ryan asked, intrigued despite himself. "It's an ancient Terran game," Maren said, setting it on the table. "It's called chess. Ever heard of it?" Ryan shook his head. "Is it like holo checkers?" "Not quite. It's a strategy game, played on a grid with pieces that each move differently. It's said to exercise the mind and foster patience qualities that might help you stop scowling every time I suggest a new therapy." Ryan smirked. "All right, show me." As Maren explained the rules, Ryan found himself drawn into the intricate dance of pawns, knights, and queens. It was surprisingly challenging, forcing him to think several moves ahead. For once, his mind wasn't dwelling on his injury or the frustrating limitations it imposed. "Checkmate," Maren said an hour later, her voice tinged with triumph. Ryan groaned. "You could have warned me you were a master strategist." She laughed. "Consider it a lesson in humility. Besides, you're a quick learner. I bet you'll beat me in a week." The challenge ignited a spark of determination in Ryan. Each day they played another game, and with each move he felt his frustration and self-pity gradually give way to a renewed sense of purpose. A week later, Rian surprised himself by walking to the game table without the aid of the hover crutch. Maren clapped her hands in delight. "See? Told you you'd get there." "It's not just the walking," he said, meeting her gaze. "I actually feel better. Like I'm not just waiting for the machines to fix me." Maren's smile softened. "That's because you've stopped seeing yourself as broken. Healing isn't about returning to who you were, it's about discovering who you can become." Rian nodded slowly, her words sinking in. For the first time, he didn't just feel like a patient, he felt like a person. Maren's methods continued to evolve. One day, she introduced Rian to an art therapy session, where he discovered a surprising talent for sketching. Another day, she brought in a group of therapy animals, including a mischievous creature called a zyklopus, which looked like a cross between a cat and a ferret. The zyklopus promptly curled up on Rian's lap, purring contentedly as he stroked its silken fur. "You're a magician," Rian told Maren, half joking. "You've turned this place into something I actually look forward to." "I just believe that healing should be a journey, not a chore," she replied. As the weeks passed, Rian's progress accelerated. His leg regained its full range of motion and his confidence soared. But as his discharge date approached, he found himself feeling unexpectedly wistful. On his last day at Starlight Medical Center, Maren met him at the door, a small package in her hands. "What's this?" Rian asked, taking the box. "Open it," she said, her amber eyes sparkling. Inside was the chess set they had used, its wooden pieces polished to a warm glow. "To remind you of your journey," Maren said, "and to keep your mind sharp." Rian felt a lump rise in his throat. "Thank you, Maren, for everything." She smiled, her expression tinged with both pride and sadness. "Just promise me one thing, don't forget what you've learned here." "I won't," he said firmly, and as he walked out of the center he knew he was leaving not just as a healed man, but as someone forever changed by the experience. Rian stepped out of the Starlight Medical Center into a world that seemed sharper, more vivid. The air smelled sweeter, the rustling of the wind carried melodies he hadn't noticed before, and even the bustling streets of Halion felt alive with energy. He clutched the chess set tightly, its weight grounding him as he prepared to rejoin the rhythm of daily life. Back in his small apartment on the outskirts of the city, Rian placed the chess set on the coffee table. His leg felt stronger with each step, though he couldn't help but trace his fingers over the faint scar that remained a physical reminder of his accident, but also a symbol of how far he'd come. The loneliness of the apartment hit him harder than he expected. He had grown accustomed to Maren's lively conversations, the warmth of her smile, and the creative energy she brought to his recovery. He found himself scrolling through his holopad, searching for a way to connect with others again. A pop-up ad caught his eye: community chess tournament, all levels welcome. Rian chuckled. "Why not?" he muttered, registering on a whim. If nothing else, it would give him something to do and perhaps a chance to test the skills Maren had nurtured in him. The tournament was held at a local recreational center, a modest but bustling venue filled with chatter and laughter. Rian arrived with his chess set tucked under his arm, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. The other participants ranged from school-aged children to elderly enthusiasts, their eyes lighting up as they studied the boards. As Rian settled into his first game, he realized how much he had underestimated the challenge. His opponent, a wiry man named Torin, moved with deliberate precision, cornering Rian's pieces in a matter of minutes. "Checkmate," Torin said, grinning. "All right," Rian said, laughing as he shook Torin's hand. "Round 1 to you. But I'm just warming up." By the third match, Rian found his rhythm. He started to anticipate moves, calculate risks, and trust his instincts. By the end of the day, he had earned a respectable spot in the middle of the rankings. More importantly, he had met a group of people who shared his passion and enthusiasm. "You've got potential," Torin told him after the event. "Stick with it. Maybe next time you'll take me down." As Rian walked home that evening, he felt a surge of pride. The tournament hadn't been about winning, it had been about stepping out of his comfort zone and rediscovering the joy of human connection. A week later, Rian's doorbell chimed unexpectedly. He opened the door to find Maren standing there, holding a basket of freshly baked pastries. "Maren," he exclaimed, surprised but thrilled, "what are you doing here?" "I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd check in," she said with a grin, though her casual tone didn't fully mask her curiosity. "How's life outside the center treating you?" Rian stepped aside, motioning her in. "Come in. Let me show you." As they settled in the living room, Rian recounted his experiences at the chess tournament, his newfound circle of friends, and the small but meaningful steps he'd taken toward rebuilding his life. Maren listened intently, her expression a mix of pride and amusement. "See? I told you you'd surprise yourself," she said. "You've done more than just heal, you've thrived." Rian hesitated before speaking. "You know, Maren, I don't think I ever thanked you properly. What you did for me.T was more than I expected. You turned a terrible experience into something I'll never forget." Maren waved him off, though her cheeks flushed slightly. "It wasn't just me, Rian. You did the hard work. I just gave you a push." "Still," he said, his voice earnest, "I wouldn't have gotten here without you." For a moment, their eyes met, and an unspoken understanding passed between them. Then Maren reached for the chessboard on the table. "Fancy a rematch?" she asked, her grin returning. Rian laughed. "You're on. But fair warning, I've been practicing." Over the next few months, Maren and Rian kept in touch, their bond deepening through shared meals, hikes through the verdant hills surrounding Halion, and, of course, endless chess matches. Rian's confidence grew, not just in his physical abilities but in his outlook on life. He began volunteering at a local rehabilitation center, sharing his story with patients who, like him, struggled to see beyond their injuries. "You're a natural," Maren told him during one of his visits. "You have a way of making people believe in themselves." "I learned from the best," he replied with a wink. One day, as they walked through a bustling market, Maren paused to admire a stall selling delicate glass figurines. She picked up a small sculpture of a phoenix, its wings outstretched in a pose of triumph. "It reminds me of you," she said, handing it to Rian. Rising from the ashes, he joked, though his voice carried a note of seriousness. "Exactly. But also, you've taken flight." As time went on, Rian found his life taking new and unexpected turns. He began organizing community events, blending elements of therapy, creativity, and fun, drawing inspiration from Maren's unique approach. Word spread quickly, and soon his workshops were attracting attention from across the city. Maren, too, found herself growing in ways she hadn't anticipated. She became a mentor to new specialists at Starlight Medical Center, sharing the techniques she had honed with Rian. But she never forgot the patient who had reminded her why she loved her work in the first place. One evening, as they sat by a lake watching the twin moons rise, Rian turned to Maren. "You know, it's funny. When I first met you, I thought you were just another part of the system, but you proved me wrong in the best way possible." "And you were just another patient," Maren said, her eyes twinkling. "Until you made me realize that healing is as much about connection as it is about care." They sat in companionable silence, the rippling water reflecting the stars above. For both of them, the journey had been about more than recovery. It had been about discovering the extraordinary in the ordinary and finding meaning in the most unexpected places. And as they watched the night unfold, it was clear that their story, like the game of chess they both loved, was far from over. Rian's workshops became a cornerstone of the Halion community, blending humor, creativity, and rehabilitation techniques. He called them flight sessions, a nod to the phoenix Maren had given him. The workshops attracted a wide range of participants, from those recovering from physical injuries to individuals seeking emotional healing. One day, during a particularly lively session that involved painting while balancing on wobble boards, Maren stopped by unannounced. She leaned against the doorway, watching as Rian guided the group with his signature mix of encouragement and light-hearted teasing. careful, Jaren Rian called to a middle-aged man wobbling precariously. The goal is to paint the canvas, not yourself. The room erupted in laughter, and even Jaren managed a sheepish grin. After the session ended, Rian spotted Marin and jogged over, his face lighting up. "You're just in time. We're having post-session cookies made by yours truly. Fair warning, though they're shaped like chess pieces." Marin smirked. "I'll take my chances. You've come a long way from the guy who thought healing was just about lying around." "Well," he said, his tone teasing, "I had an excellent teacher." As they shared cookies and caught up, Marin noticed how the participants gravitated toward Rian, drawn by his warmth and relatability. It was clear that he had become more than a facilitator, he was a source of hope and inspiration. "You've created something special here," Marin said quietly. "I'm proud of you." Rian smiled. "Coming from you, that means a lot." One evening, as Rian and Marin were playing chess in his apartment, he hesitated before making his move. "I've been thinking," he began, his voice tinged with excitement and nervousness. "What if we expanded this?" "Expanded how?" Marin asked, moving her bishop to threaten his knight. "Well, the workshops are great, but what if we took the idea to other cities? There are so many people who could benefit from this kind of approach, and not just patients, caregivers too." Marin leaned back, considering his words. "That's ambitious. But it's also brilliant. You'd need a strong team and funding, though." "Exactly," Rian said, leaning forward. "And that's where you come in. You've got connections, experience, and ... Well, you're you. I can't imagine doing this without you." Marin blinked, caught off guard. "You're serious?" "Dead serious," Rian said, his expression earnest. "What we did together changed my life. I want to share that with others, and I want you to be part of it." Marin studied him for a long moment, then smiled. "All right, Ascor, let's do it. But fair warning, I expect to be co-chair of the chess committee." "Deal," Rian said, laughing. Over the next year, Rian and Marin poured their energy into building what they called the Phoenix Network. It started with small workshops in neighboring cities, but quickly grew into a movement. They collaborated with local medical centers, schools, and community groups, offering sessions that combined physical therapy, creative expression, and human connection. The Phoenix Network's flagship program, From Patient to Pioneer, became a cornerstone of their efforts. It encouraged participants not only to heal but to channel their experiences into helping others. Many graduates of the program went on to become facilitators themselves, creating a ripple effect that extended far beyond Halion. Rian and Marin's partnership deepened, their shared vision forging an unshakable bond. They spent countless late nights brainstorming ideas, debating logistics, and celebrating milestones. And while their relationship remained professional and public, those closest to them noticed the quiet affection that grew with each passing day. On the anniversary of the Phoenix Network's founding, Rian and Marin hosted a gala in Halion. The event brought together hundreds of participants, supporters, and collaborators from across the region. The evening was filled with laughter, music, and heartfelt testimonials from those whose lives had been touched by the program. As the night wound down, Rian stood on stage, gazing out at the crowd. "A little over a year ago, I was just another patient," he began, his voice steady but emotional. "I thought my journey was about getting back on my feet, but it turned out to be about so much more. It was about discovering resilience, finding purpose, and most importantly, connecting with people who believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself." He glanced toward Marin, who stood in the front row, her amber eyes glistening. "This wouldn't have been possible without Marin Seelys. She didn't just help me heal, she showed me what healing truly means. Marin, thank you for being my guide, my partner, and my friend." The crowd erupted into applause as Marin joined him on stage. She smiled, her voice steady despite the lump in her throat. "Rian, you've turned an idea into a movement. You've shown that healing isn't just about recovery, it's about transformation. And I couldn't be prouder to stand by your side." As the gala wound down and the last guest trickled out, Rian and Marin found themselves alone in the quiet hall. The lights cast a soft glow over the room, illuminating the banners that bore the Phoenix Network's emblem, a soaring phoenix framed by a circle of stars. "Well," Ryan said, breaking the silence, "we did it." Marin nodded, her smile warm. "We did, and this is just the beginning." He hesitated for a moment, then reached out, taking her hand. "You know, Marin, I've spent a lot of time thinking about what brought us here, and I keep coming back to one thing: you." Marin's breath caught, but she didn't pull away. "Ryan, you changed my life," he continued, his voice soft but unwavering. "Not just as a healer, but as a person. I don't know where this road is taking us, but I know I want to walk it with you." For a long moment, Marin said nothing, her gaze searching his. Then, with a smile that was equal parts joy and relief, she squeezed his hand. "You always did have a way of surprising me, Ascor." They stood there, hand in hand, as the world around them faded into the background. It wasn't the end of their story, it was the start of something new, a journey they would face together, step by step. The months following the gala were a whirlwind of activity and growth. The Phoenix Network expanded faster than Ryan and Marin had anticipated, with requests pouring in from cities and colonies far beyond Halion. Their work was no longer a local initiative, it had become a galaxy-wide movement. Ryan and Marin took to traveling together, often spending weeks away from home as they set up new programs, trained facilitators, and spoke at conferences. Their dynamic partnership became the stuff of legend among their colleagues. Ryan's charismatic energy complemented Marin's thoughtful, empathetic approach, and together they inspired everyone they encountered. But while their public collaboration flourished, their personal relationship quietly evolved. They shared countless late-night conversations under unfamiliar stars, moments of unspoken understanding during long shuttle rides, and a growing sense of mutual trust and affection that neither could deny. It was during a trip to the distant colony of Velira that their bond deepened in an unexpected way. The colony was known for its breathtaking crystalline forests and its inhabitants' commitment to preserving their fragile ecosystem. Ryan and Marin had been invited to establish a new Phoenix Network center there, but the process proved more challenging than they anticipated. The colony's council was wary of outsiders, and negotiations stretched on for days. Ryan, always the optimist, kept pushing forward, but even his patience began to wear thin. One evening, after another fruitless meeting, he and Marin found themselves walking through the glittering forest, their path illuminated by the soft glow of the crystalline trees. "I don't know if we're getting through to them," Ryan admitted, his frustration evident. "They're so focused on what could go wrong that they're missing what could go right." Marin placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch grounding him. "It's not easy for them. They've worked so hard to protect what they have. Change feels like a risk." He sighed, kicking at a loose stone. "You always see the other side. How do you stay so patient?" She smiled faintly. "I've learned that people aren't so different from patience. They need time, understanding, and a reason to believe in something better." Ryan looked at her, his expression softening. "You really are the best person I know, Marin." She turned to him, her amber eyes catching the light of the forest. "And you're the most stubborn person I know, but somehow it works." Without thinking, Ryan reached for her hand. "I couldn't do this without you, Marin. I wouldn't want to." For a moment the only sound was the gentle hum of the crystalline trees. Then Marin smiled, her fingers tightening around his. "Good thing you don't have to." The breakthrough on Velira came the following day, when Ryan and Marin presented a proposal that blended the Phoenix Network's goals with the colony's values. The council approved the initiative unanimously, and the success felt like a shared triumph. As they celebrated with the colony's residents, Ryan and Marin exchanged a glance that spoke volumes. From that moment on, their partnership took on a new dimension. They were no longer just colleagues or friends, they were two halves of the same whole, united by a shared vision and an unshakable connection. Their relationship, once defined by playful banter and mutual respect, deepened into something more profound. One evening, months later, as they prepared for the launch of the Phoenix Network's 50th center, Rian and Marin found themselves sitting on the edge of a dock, overlooking a shimmering lake. The moonlight danced on the water, and the air was filled with the sound of chirping insects. "Can you believe how far we've come?" Rian asked, breaking the silence. "Sometimes it feels like yesterday that I was just another grumpy patient in a hospital bed." Marin chuckled. "You were definitely grumpy. But you had potential, even then." He nudged her playfully. "And you saw it before I did. That's your gift, Marin. You see what people can be, not just what they are." She turned to him, her expression serious. "And you remind people that they're capable of more than they think. That's your gift." They sat in companionable silence for a moment, the weight of their journey settling over them. Then Rian reached into his pocket and pulled out a small object, a polished stone carved into the shape of a phoenix. "I had this made for you," he said, handing it to her, "to remind you of everything you've done. For me, for the network, for everyone." Marin stared at the stone, her fingers tracing its intricate details. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Thank you." "No," Rian said, his voice firm. "Thank you." Over the years, the Phoenix Network grew into one of the most respected organizations in the galaxy, transforming countless lives and inspiring a new generation of healers and pioneers. Rian and Marin's story became a beacon of hope, a reminder that healing was more than just recovery. It was about growth, connection, and the power of the human spirit. Through it all, their bond remained unshakable, a partnership built on trust, admiration, and love. They continued to push each other to new heights, their journey a testament to what could be achieved when two people came together with a shared purpose. And as they stood on the balcony of their home one evening, watching the stars blaze across the sky, they knew that their greatest legacy wasn't just the network, it was the life they had built together, a life filled with laughter, challenges, and the unshakable belief that the best was yet to come.